Alright, so this is a demo about the pectoralis and deltoids. Pectoralis is three muscle forms that overlap each other at the point of insertion. Origin is right along the bottom here on the rib cage, sternum right here, and clavicle up here. It also attaches to the external obliques, the tendinous portion of the external obliques. So this outside portion is a triangle that basically from this outer edge attaches to the upper portion of the insertion. That insertion is lateral to the bicipital groove. It's not quite as I have it here. Let's see if I can make that a little bit better. It's very flat and tendinous over here on the side. It comes over the biceps. It wraps over the biceps onto the humerus. Let's see. More like that. And so this bottom portion, which is a sliver, it's kind of a triangle on the outside here, attaches to the upper portion of that insertion. Next is a portion that covers, it's the major part. It attaches across the middle, overlapping that little one. It attaches all this area right here, and it overlaps that little one. And so by overlapping that area right here where the overlap occurs, it gets thicker. And then the third portion is the upper part that connects to the clavicle, and then it attaches down to the lower portion of the insertion. So again, you have some more overlapping. So it's got like this spiral look over here, and right where your armpit occurs, that's why that muscle feels very thick right there, because it's three muscle bellies overlapping each other. That's really what you have there. It's thinner as it's at the top of the rib cage here, and it's thicker over here as I described because of all the overlapping of the three different muscle bellies. So one thing we could add that we haven't is we could add the nipple. Let's see. And take me 10 years to place it. But if I'm not mistaken, let's see. This the nipple kind of angles downward to the lateral side, and one way that might make that easier to recognize that is because the muscle fibers are moving in the opposite direction, perpendicular to that. So if the muscle fibers are moving this way, usually the fat and the flesh kind of grow perpendicular over the muscle fibers. So this has generally this kind of an appearance on that. And this part of this corner of the pectoralis, even on men, there's like a little bit of a fleshy area to this corner, so it fills out a little bit more. The actual muscle, and I might already have that in place, the actual muscle probably goes sharper to the point of insertion, but there's still, even on athletes or bodybuilders, there still might be a little bit something extra here that's fleshiness, that you could fill that out. And usually when I draw, I'll kind of draw that in place. I'll add that out, and it squares out the pectoralis form oftentimes. Next is the deltoids. And the deltoids, if I open this up, you might be able to tell that it's triangular in shape, and that's where the name comes from. Delta, the Greek letter, is a triangle. And so the deltoid is made up of essentially 3 triangles, 3 muscle heads. Oops. Let me see if I did that right. Okay. So it's 3 muscle heads. There's the posterior head, which connects to the scapula, and that separates into basically 2 forms. Over here, it's more tendinous, so it's flat as it connects to the spine of the scapula. Over here, it's a full muscle belly, but sometimes it's divided into 2 forms. For example, the spine of the scapula has a shape over here that causes that attachment to separate, something like that. So you could ignore that, or if you're looking at an old master work, you can recognize that that's what's happening, is this posterior head of the deltoid is divided into tendinous area and 2 muscle bellies. This one is the acromial head, which connects to the acromion process here of the scapula, and it overlaps the clavicular head that's in the front here and the posterior head. They all come down and meet, or the insertion is essentially the middle of the humerus, outside part of the humerus, comes down to about the bottom of the pectoralis muscle. And then the front part, anterior head or the clavicular head, it attaches to the outer curve of the clavicle right here, and it also attaches to the same place on the humerus. It pretty much borders the pectoralis muscle, starts to overlap it. As you know, it's covering the insertion point of the pectoralis, so it does overlap it, but up here it more or less is next to it. It doesn't overlap it so much. What you're left with is this inside curve of the clavicle. There is no muscle attachment, so you have this kind of hole, which is called the infraclavicular fossa. So it's inferior to the clavicle, and it's a fossa. Fossa is kind of a depression. A negative kind of space. So if you feel right below your clavicle there, you can know exactly what that spot is. All right. So hopefully that helps out a little bit there.